Welcome to the Shame Free Sex podcast. I'm your host, Brielle Starr from shamefreesex.com. By tuning in today, you are taking your next bold step towards fully embracing your authentic sexual self, absolutely shame-free. It's time to take your power back from shame and experience the life of your dreams, both in the bedroom and beyond. Let's embark on this transformative, shame-free journey together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Shame Free Sex podcast. I hope that you are having a fabulous day, and I can assure you that it's about to get a whole lot better because we are going to be learning about pussy yoga with the fabulous Coco Berlin. Coco Berlin is a certified pelvic floor expert, movement therapist, and best-selling author, and Coco's best-selling book, Pussy Yoga, is available worldwide with international editions. I am so excited to be speaking with you today, Coco. I always enjoy talking with you, and thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yes, and thank you so much, Brielle, for having me. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Yes. I'm honored to have you here, the fabulous creator of Pussy Yoga. And we've spoken about this briefly before, but I don't remember too much, and I'm sure our listeners have no idea what that means. But before we get into the details about Pussy Yoga, I'd love if you could get started by just telling us about you, your journey, and what led you to coming into doing the work that you do in creating Pussy Yoga.
Yes, because it's such a long-winded journey of decades. I will just quickly put it into a nutshell. I was a young belly dancer, always trying to become the best dancer I could be. And I was looking for the secret, like what does make a really great performer? And then while I was studying dance and anatomy and all the things, I never found the real secret of what makes a really great dancer. And then when I went to Egypt, I found it there with the belly dancers. They had a connection to their pelvic floor that we Westerners can only dream about. And so I got obsessed. I studied the pelvic floor there with them, but they didn't know much about it because they just do it intuitively. It's just baked into the way they move and they live. And I studied all the pelvic floor stuff here in Europe. And then I mixed and matched and finally came up with something that worked for me. I immediately started sharing it with my dance students. They all were also as much in love with it as me because we felt finally we got this really great connection to our pelvis where we normally always felt a little bit like disconnected, you know. For us Westerners, the pelvis is somehow like a box. Yeah, there is something in it. We have some feelings there, but we don't really know our anatomy, like from the inside. We don't really feel it. And so I really dove into this and shared this with my women. And then I proceeded with studying. I study until today. I'm a lifelong student. And now there's so much new amazing pelvic floor research coming up. Basically, in the last 10 years, we've had more pelvic floor research than in the whole decades that Western science exists. Can you imagine? So it's really skyrocketing, like all sciences about the female anatomy or like female hormones. You know, we have like all the years and years of science that has been done on men. We have to catch up with all of this. And now we have all the beautiful research. So a lot of things we just found it out through like dancing and experiencing. Most of the pelvic floor pioneers that I've been learning from were dancers. So they weren't physiotherapists, they weren't gynecologists, but they were dancers, anatomists. And now this knowledge is spreading everywhere, even to physiotherapists who are really like now starting to catch up with all the amazing science because the pelvic floor is actually our anatomical center. So the pelvic floor is connected to our entire core, right? So the diaphragm to how we breathe, our belly muscles. But then it's also connected to our extremities, to our arms, and most of all to our legs. So how we dance, how we move, everything trains our pelvic floor, or it does not train it when it's not integrated. And I have developed this method, which I call pelvic floor integration. where we integrate the pelvic floor into the rest of our body. So we get really conscious of it. And why aren't we so conscious in the Western world? Because of our culture. We are very, like you talk about shame-free sex, and there's so much shame around everything to do with sexuality, the pelvis, the periods, birthing, like everything that's in the pelvis, it's like basically covered with shame. And when we connect to this area that has had so much shame and so much like stigma attached to it, we can really unlock so much potential because wherever we have hold shame, we hold stored feelings, we hold all trauma that we never touch. Even like with therapists or like with if you go to a massage, you never get treated on your pelvic floor. You have to go to pelvic floor specialists, and there are only few and far between that are good. And then, like it's really like it's the center of our musculoskeletal system. But the people who deal with our musculoskeletal system, like physiotherapists, doctors, they never touch the pelvic floor. And it's really so sad. But don't worry, we have pussy yoga, we have essence of belly dance, and it's spreading throughout the world. It's not only me that is doing this. So I've been probably one of the first who has been doing this. But now there are so many people coming out, physiotherapists that are discovering that there's more to the pelvic floor that they were taught in school, dancers, gynecologists, now the entire I hope you don't hear. We have a traffic jam with some chaos downstairs. So all the people who are now coming out about the menopause, they're also all diving into the pelvic floor and making the connection. Because when we come to the menopause, then everything starts to show, like all the wrong trainings we did, all the babies, like everything, all our like basically our entire Western lifestyle starts to show when the muscles deteriorate, the tissues deteriorate. And many women get injured when they do their daily workouts. Many women get injured when they have babies, but they don't know it and they don't have any symptoms. This just later shows up in life, and when you're 50, 60, and then it's very hard to train because you have to retrain the way you've been doing things for decades. And it doesn't need to be this way. That's why I wrote Pussy Yoga specifically for young women. So it's a book that is about sex, feeling great in your body. And it's taking basically the pelvic floor a little bit out of this stigma-laden place where women only go when they have any kind of issues. So when women have incontinence or any other pelvic issues, like the organs are falling out, they feel this discomfort. And then they start to look into the pelvic floor. And most of the women who start looking into the pelvic floor, they wait for 9 years with their symptoms, the painful symptoms and the shame-laden symptoms until they go to the doctor. Can you imagine 9 years of quietly suffering, not telling your friends, not telling your doctor? So that's why I wrote Pussy Yoga, and I target it to young women because the earlier we get in touch, the more we have from our life and our pelvic floor. We have better sex, we feel better about ourselves, we feel more grounded, more embodied. So it has so many, 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 yeah, many good things about it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about a little bit about your journey. And you sound so passionate about the work that you do, which is always so wonderful hearing someone who's just so in alignment with what they're doing and bringing to the world. And I really appreciate you addressing shame here and sharing about how there's so much shame about pretty much anything regarding our pelvic area. And so I am excited to learn about how Pussy Yoga can help us release some of that shame as well as we talk later today. And you also just mentioned this idea that you actually market it to younger people. I think a lot of people don't consider working with their pelvic floor until they get older or perhaps have children and all of those sorts of things. So, could you tell us a little bit more about why you specifically work with younger people and also why you chose the name Pussy Yoga? Does that have to do with your demographic that you were reaching?
Yes. So, I started doing it when I was young. So I started in my very early 20s and I didn't have any kids, I didn't have any pelvic floor issues, but I determined that the pelvic floor was the missing link. So I wanted everybody to know. So naturally, the people who were attracted to my dance classes were also like younger than me or my age. And then as I grew older, of course, the people around me that attracted to me are also a little bit older. I think it's just natural that you look like when you look to learn from somebody, most people trust rather somebody who's like a little bit older than them, but they feel also more comfortable around people in their age. So that's my theory. And then we still have very, very young demographic when we look into our Google Analytics or what's going on our social media. I'm always like, they're still so young. It's so fascinating. And so that's how the younger demographic came to be, because I believe as soon as possible, you can be 13 or whatever, as soon as possible, as soon as you get interested in your body, you should know this. In the US, I read a statistic, so that's not possible in Europe, but in the US, women don't know, like it's like I think it's 80% of women, they don't know that they don't pee out of their vagina. They don't know that they have a urethra that's before the vagina, like in front of the vagina. This is incredible. We have to be literate about our own body. We have to know what's going on. And thanks God in Europe, like we learn this in school, like we have less of these like constraints, these taboos around biology, but still there's a lot of shame. Yes, and the title. Okay, so the title is actually not my idea. So my German publisher, they wanted to write a book about they wanted to publish a book about the pelvic floor, and they were looking for somebody who could bring the pelvic floor to the younger demographic, because they were women in their 40s, they had their babies, and they were confronted with their pelvic floor issues. And they thought, why does nobody tell me this before? Like, what the and then they were looking for somebody who could bring this to a younger audience. And in their network, they had one of the most famous German bloggers, yoga bloggers, and she then suggested me because she knew my sensuous dance workout, which was like bringing the sensuous dance and the pelvic floor integration together. So basically, my belly dance work in a free dance movement with pelvic floor integration. So moving from your pelvis, knowing your pelvic floor, training your pelvic floor. And when they saw this, they were like, that's our girl. She has to write the book. And they already had the title. They had the title. They said, the title is Pussy Yoga. Are you interested? You can also bring your own title. We want to do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. And then I said, okay, Pussy Yoga is definitely not working for me. It's just ridiculous. It sounded so funny and so weird and it totally unserious, because my work is very serious. I deal with trauma, with emotions, with taboo. So I wanted it to feel very, like luxurious, sensuous, and also somehow sacred, and not like provocative or cheesy or anything. And also, I'm not actually doing yoga. So I started doing yoga when I was a little kid. So I'm a geriatric yogi. I've been doing yoga for 40 years or something. But I'm not a religious yogi, and my work is not really connected to yoga. The only thing that we have in common, like yoga and what I'm doing, is that we have the body-mind connection. So we sense our body, but my work is very free. We don't have like asanas, we don't follow patterns, but this embodiment, this feeling, what you're doing, really embodying yourself and bringing the mind and body together, that's what we have in common. So and then I looked up what is the thing, what does it have, like what's behind the pussy? Like, why is this such a problematic word? Where does it come from? And then my research basically showed, so pussy actually comes from cat. The name like the name people give to cats in like Germanic languages, so English, German, and also in France, it's a little bit like they also use the word cat for woman, and they did this like what is it now? I forgot. Like the research is now so long ago, but I think like I believe it was in the 1800s when they started calling women and girls pussy. And so from there, it just became also attached to the female genitalia, and then it started like this. So it was basically like a little bit out there already, but then it became more and more and more kind of like a bad word, like a taboo word. But everything around the vagina is somehow a taboo word. Do you have any word in the West that in the English language that there was which is not vagina and not vulva, which isn't taboo, like everything, like the worst swear words are somehow related to the vagina. And so I thought actually cat, it's a strong animal. Cats are sensuous, they are strong, they are smart. We have the big cats, we have the lionesses, we have the tigers, and they are amazing. And the vagina is a little bit like this too. It is very sensuous, but it is also very strong. So I just said, you know what? Other people have already also tried to reclaim the word pussy, like a lot of feminists. So there has been also already a New York Times bestseller, which is called Pussy by Regina Thomashauer, and there are several bands that are called Pussy or Pussy Riot. There was Pussy Grabs Back movement after somebody told the entire world that you can just grab women by their pussy. And yes, and without the name, the book would have not been the bestseller that it is, I'm sure, because pussy is a scroll stopper. So you're scrolling around, you're looking for something about the pelvic floor, and what is that? And then you just get curious, you look into it, and Pussy Yoga has been the #3 best-selling book in summer 2020. So there was a book about, like I think it was Trump's cousin, a biography about Trump, and then the second was about the coronavirus, and the third was Pussy Yoga. So there has never been a pelvic floor book on the bestseller list, and Pussy Yoga landed there because of the name, and of course also because I was on TV. But why was I on TV? Because everybody got excited about what? There's a Pussy Yoga out there. We have to find it out. And so it is like I take it now like with humor. It's a fun book, it's a conversation starter. And with pelvic floor integration, nobody would have picked that book up. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I think it's such a catchy name, such an interesting name. And yeah, there's definitely, I would imagine so many people have a variety of different feelings about the word pussy. That includes men and women. And you mentioned Regina's book called Pussy, and I actually recently read that with my book club. And it's so interesting how many women have really weird feelings around the word pussy. I know even myself did. I found it to be kind of a negative word or perhaps quote unquote slutty or just things like that. And so I really like seeing the word used in such an empowering way, such as the work that you do. And I've practiced using this word more in my everyday life. It's so fun and playful, and the title of your book is exactly demonstrates that. So I just love it, and I loved hearing a little bit about the background of how that came to be. And could you go in a little bit deeper and tell us about how we do pussy yoga? You've mentioned a little bit about what it is, that pelvic floor integration, but is there anything else you could tell us about how to do it? Is this something that we can do on our own, or do we need to partake in classes or programs?
Yes, so of course you can do it on your own. That's why I wrote the book. So I wrote the book also to make it really accessible to everybody, because you can get it on a Kindle for 9.99 in any currency. So when you go to your whatever where you get your ebooks from, you can get it for 9.99. Already start reading, and while you're reading, you're doing the exercises. So it's like a book full with interesting scientific facts about your pussy and our body-mind connections, our emotions, and our inner strength. But also, you immediately have the exercises. Everybody can immediately do the exercises by themselves. You can't do too much wrong. But of course, if you want to be guided, if you want to be in a community, then you can come to our courses. So we have courses, we have teachers. I train teachers since over 12 years now. We have teachers all over the world. And if you want, we can do another exercise together. I don't remember what we did the last time, but we always do an exercise. If you want, we can do an exercise. Are you
I'd
interested?
love that. Let's do it. Yes.
Okay, so let's do one exercise where everybody's sitting, and even if you drive a car, you can do this. You just don't close your eyes. So if you're driving, you can still do this. And if you're not driving, just close your eyes and focus on yourself. So where are you in your body? Just sense where you are and try to get more and more of yourself into yourself. So all the thoughts you're having, everything, like just come back to yourself and sense yourself in your body. So in behind your face, under your hair, under your shoulder blades, where you're breathing and where you're sitting. And then also feel your legs and your arms and focus on your pelvis. So how are you sitting there? Do you have the left and the right side? Do they feel equal? Or did you cross your legs in a way where they're not equal? Try to have your left and your right side somehow equal and feel if you can sense your sit bones. So your sit bones are parts of your pelvis that are bony. So you have two hip bones, left and right. And then the sit bones are the lowest point of these hip bones where you're normally sitting on. So you feel them. And if you can't feel them, take one hand and lean over to the other side and look under your butt for a bony, sticky out thing, which is your sit bone. You can massage this. So on the inside of the sit bone, you will already connect a little bit to the fascia of your pelvic floor. It's attached there. And then on the outside, you will feel a little bit of your butt. So let's then sit down and feel a little bit of the difference. Can you feel how the place where you touched is now more aware? It feels more present, maybe is warmer or more tingly, maybe wider, lighter, or heavier. And then let's go to the other side and just sense for the sit bone, dig into it. And if you have ever been to any kind of massage therapy, you know that people are really, when they massage you, they get into the tissue. So don't be shy and just go into your tissues. Feel the sit bone a little bit on the inside and then on the outside. And then let go of it and just sense the left and the right side of your sit bones. The left sit bone and the right sit bone. And now let them sink into the chair or into the thing that you're sitting on. Just imagine that they're sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into the chair, then into the earth, and deeper and deeper. And as you let them sink down, feel if maybe your entire torso, your spine, your rib cage, everything aligns a little bit better. And now try to press with the right sit bone a little more into the chair and then let go. And then the left sit bone, press it a little bit more into the chair and let go. And then right and left, you can alternate it at your own tempo and always sense for the difference. So try to put as much force, as much power as you can into pressing down with the sit bones. So you're actually already activating your pelvic floor, even if you don't know much about your pelvic floor, but you never do a Kegel. So we don't do old-fashioned pelvic floor activations and exercises here. We train the pelvic floor dynamically. So now this is an isometric exercise where we don't actually really move with the entire body. So we don't really move our skeleton. So our bones are sitting there, but we try to move the bones. And when you try to move the bones with the muscles, you will sense that every time you try it, you will feel more and more actual movement happening there. Just keep on doing this, and you can take this exercise and this sensing exercise also into your daily life and just do it anytime. Maybe you're sitting in a restaurant waiting for a friend or for your um, plate to arrive. And then you can slowly keep on doing this and just open your eyes and look a little bit around you and see if you feel a little bit different. And don't lose the connection to yourself that you've established while you look a little bit around. And then close your eyes again and sense how, when you have your eyes closed, it's easier for most of us to stay connected to our internal world. And when we open our eyes, because we are such visual beings, it's very easy to immediately be out of our body and connected to whatever's going on there. And that's also one exercise that you can take into your daily life, like connecting to your inner world, opening the eyes and closing them, and then oscillating a little bit. So now let's keep the eyes open and try to stay alive in our inner world. And when you're in your inner world, you know how you feel, you know your emotions, and then you see what's going on. You can be active in the world, but you're not really sucked into everything else, but you always stay connected to yourself. And that's what we always try. We try to always stay connected to ourselves because it's so easy to get lost. So we are lost in our social media, in any kind of news we're consuming. We're always out there. Everybody wants things from us, you know, the boss, the kids, the partner. Everybody always wants something. And we practice to really immerse ourselves into us and then always also stay connected. And also, you know, because the topic here is shame-free sex, you know, we stay connected to ourselves while we're having sex. There's no need to get out. Just come in. Always come in. Practice being in yourself, in your body, while you connect with your partner or with whomever you're having sex. That's it for today with the exercise.
Yes,
How are
I
you
love that
feeling?
one. It was awesome. I definitely feel a big difference. I feel the whole lower half of my body a lot more, and I also feel just in general a more emotional side. I feel more whole essentially. So that was my favorite. I've done a few exercises with you now. That was my favorite one actually. Maybe I was just more present than normal, but it was awesome. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And you know, I think it's really because you've been in your body more. You know, you've practiced this more already. So
Mhm.
you're already connected. Because every time we do this, we already have a shift. You know, so it's never a wasted time for everybody who's always putting off doing their exercises or their self-care. Don't put it off. Like every time you do it, you're diving deeper and you're already changing. So it's never a wasted time. A little side note, because I know all the women who always put off their exercises or they're like, you know, it's not a real exercise even. It's more like a joyful practice, like a little treat instead of a chocolate or something.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. It's so easy to get wrapped up in doing all sorts of other things and then saying that we're too busy, even though we might have just spent 10 minutes scrolling on our phone that we could have been doing a pelvic floor exercise or all these sorts of things. So it's so easy, I know for myself personally, to put that on the back burner. But every time I do these sorts of things, I feel better, and I'm so thankful I did it. So for anyone listening today, take that as you will. And you mentioned at the end of the exercise about how this can actually help us be more embodied in our sex lives. Is there anything else you could tell us how pussy yoga helps benefit us in the bedroom?
Yes, of course. So, of course, the connection is very important because the more we practice connecting our nervous system to our genitalia, the stronger the nerve connection becomes, the stronger the representation of our vagina, for example, and our clitoris in our mind. And this is very important because when we are not connected, our brain, which is also like a sexual organ, a lot of sexuality happens really in the brain. It is just not working. We're cut off and we don't have access to any of the good stuff. Most of the people say, I want an orgasm, but before the orgasm, all the good feelings that are already so like fascinating and amazing, you have to build this connection. So the body-mind connection is important. And then, of course, also, we increase the blood flow. So all of us now, after the exercise, we have now so much more blood flow in our vagina and our pussy and our entire pelvic area, the pelvic floor and everything. So we have increased blood flow. Increased blood flow, of course, helps us having, because we also get erections. It helps us to have like a more erectile tissue. And it nourishes the tissues, it nourishes the fascia, the muscles and the organs of the pelvic floor. Then, of course, it also helps with the lymph flow, like all the detox stuff. And then when we train the muscles then also work better when we're having sex. So the pelvic floor activates when we're having sex. We have stronger orgasms because the orgasm happens. It's like a muscle contraction. And if your muscle is not available, you will have a very, very, very tiny contraction. And in order for all the tissue to swell, we have particular muscles, bulbous spongylosis and ischiocavernosus, that are responsible for to block the blood flow away from our erectile tissue. So it's the equivalent that what men also have. So the blood flows into our tissues, but then it is stopped there, and then it just the tissue grows, it becomes engorged, so really big and fluffy and juicy, and that's what we need. So we need this juiciness, and this only happens when we train our pelvic floor and when we train the body-mind connection. And then what else? There's so many good things. And then of course, like the pelvic floor also helps you to move. So when you train like pussy yoga is we're not like if you do, for example, Kegels. Kegel can also help a little bit if you have never done any pelvic floor things before. Then with the Kegel, you already can improve your pelvic floor, like your sexual functionality. But now imagine if you're not just doing your Kegel, which can be also quite harmful, it can lead to tension and even some deformations in the structures. If you do like the exercise that we have started, like we have actually been doing here, like for everybody who can see the video, we have been pressing with our sit bone into the floor. So we have straightened each muscle layer, and all of this is the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor is all of this. It's not just around your vagina. So when you practice these exercises, you can do all of this stuff also while you're having sex. And we practice a lot of, because I'm a belly dancer, so it all comes from belly dance. So we do a lot of beautiful, intricate movements with the pelvis that then also help you to move better and to move in a way that gives you pleasure and also the person that you're having sex with. So it is like a multifaceted thing, and it all enhances each other. So the more nerve connections you have, the better you can train your pelvic floor, the stronger your pelvic floor muscles are, and the more flexible and vital they are. Blah, blah, blah. So it's like a virtuous circle, basically. And it all also helps you with emotions. So you feel better about yourself, you sense your emotions more, and then you have less shame because you're more comfortable with who you are. You confront all the feelings that you have maybe hidden, that have been trapped in your tissue, and then you feel more free and you feel more free to be who you are. And then, of course, you have more fun when you're having sex because you don't hold back. You're just you.
Yeah.
And it's a whole Pandora's box.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like there's so many different benefits, and pussy yoga can be so helpful in our personal sexuality and our sexual experiences. And yeah, I'm just still in love with that exercise that you led us through, and I feel so much more alive in all areas. So I could totally see how doing this work, and these practices would transfer over into our sex lives as well. And now that we know it can help with confidence, it can help with actual pelvic issues, and it can help with our sex lives, are there any other benefits that we might not be thinking of pussy yoga, such as empowerment in our career and work life or anything like that?
Yes, yes, because when you feel more connected to your sexuality and to your body, of course, you are more empowered. So we have even in the Pussy Yoga Immersion, which is our 3 month program, we have even a module which is called Pussy Power Your Career, because the more you are in your body and the more you feel yourself, the better you can deal with any kinds of emotion. You can hold a lot of strong emotions, and if you're not afraid of strong emotions like confronting people, like conflicts, negotiations, you just feel more powerful. So you become more clear, you become more emotionally mature. All of this helps you, of course, too. So yes. And like all of this is also important when you do any kind of workout. So when you have your pelvic floor integrated, you can do all your weightlifting, your running, your hiking, like everything just becomes better, more from the inside out. And then if you move through life like this, of course you're more confident. So yeah, there's no end to good benefits, I have to say. But girls, you have to try it out, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody to try it
Yeah,
out.
awesome. Yeah, thank you for just sharing a little bit more about how awesome essentially pussy yoga is. That's what I'm getting out of this. It's just awesome. So thank you for that. Yes. And as we reach the end of our time together, Coco, I would love if you could share about how people can work with you, where they can find and buy your book, and anything else that you'd like to share about the services that you offer for anyone who's ready to explore pussy yoga or any of the other amazing work that you do.
Yeah, so come to me and when everywhere on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, on the website, we have a lot of good free stuff for you. So like exercises like this one, you can just join me and try it out for yourself. And then the books are wherever books are sold. Now my second book will also come out in the English language, but the title is still a secret. We train teachers. So if you want to really embody all of this and then just go out into the world and teach it yourself, you can also join us. So we have the Essence of Belly Dance teacher training. We have the Pussy Yoga facilitator education. So just look for me and try all the free stuff that we have available for you. And I think you maybe you will link to the nice little 5 minute workout, Brielle, or something like that. Or we have also the sensuous dance workout that you can just do for yourself, to free yourself emotionally and train your pelvic floor at the same time. It's really like there's so many good things, and I'm really extremely passionate about my own work. I don't know, it's just really great. Like every time I'm just like, why did nobody ever do this before? It's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's so incredible hearing you, like I mentioned earlier, just how passionate you are. And it's such an exciting type of work, and it's so exciting for women to be able to access this, for anyone essentially to be able to access this information and learn from you. And so, yes, as a reminder to our listeners, Coco's website will be in the show notes. You can head over, and I highly suggest, if nothing else, you do those free little gifts that she has on her website. I've done them and they're awesome. So definitely be sure to check that out, and her programs and all of those other things that she shared about. The book, of course, that's probably one of the best ways to dive deeper with pussy yoga is get your book. So awesome. Thank you for sharing about your work, Coco. And then, do you have any final thoughts or a final message that you'd like to leave us with today, Coco?
Yes, so I think I always say the same thing because it's such an underrated thing that you have all you need within yourself and it is in your body. So always take the time to connect with your body. Put your hands now on your chest, on your shoulders, and just feel it. That's you. Like, stay connected to you. Feel your emotions. Really don't judge your body only in the mirror and try to change it. Really own your body, like, stay connected to your body and don't take it for granted. Don't take your health for granted. Really stay in touch with yourself no matter what you're doing. Feel your body, be there for yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your final message, really being with our bodies. It is our one body. So, taking care of ourselves and being with ourselves and exploring ourselves, all of those things. So, thank you for that, Coco. And thank you for joining us on the Shame Free Sex podcast today and teaching us all about pussy yoga. It was so wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you very much, Bria. It was really an honor to be here.
Yes, thank you so much once again. And to our shame-free listeners as well, thank you for being here today and taking one more step towards embracing your most authentic, shame-free self. Stay sexy, stay safe, stay curious. Take care, everyone. Explore more at shamefreesex.com. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so that you never miss out on another episode. Bye, everyone.